The Eastside Fantasy Football Podcast, presented by St. James Deli and Spirits, live from the Seahawk booth. Here is Nick Testoni.
Thank you. As always, it's the Eastside Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Nick Testoni, joined by Joe Briner, and a special guest, the number 1 seed, Jackson Edelman.
I'm here too.
Didn't I say your name?
You did, but Jackson didn't.
Oh, sorry. It's Saturday, December 17th. Playoffs are upon us. A lot of exciting things happening. I'm here with two men who are in the playoffs. I'm not, but we got some special playoff preview, a little segment I put together. I think these episodes could get a little shorter because we don't really need to talk about 6 teams anymore.
You know, I'm in the playoffs, but my team is not in the playoffs, actually. We got a lot going on there that we'll uncover soon.
Your heart's in it.
My heart is very much in it.
Hey, Joe's got a big game this week. Jackson's got a bye. I have nothing, but there's definitely news going on. So why don't we get right into the news? All right, Ramondre Stevenson, ankle. He was not practicing on Wednesday. Joe, you're probably more connected to this. You're probably following it with everything you got. So tell me what you got.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything for Thursday just yet. I'm going to go triple check right now, but to my understanding, just wasn't present at practice on Wednesday. Actually, just seeing now as of a few minutes ago, remained sidelined at practice on Thursday. So that's not ideal either. So you can change that to not practicing Thursday as well. Not looking good. Not looking good at all. I'm in a very tough situation with my running backs. When the time you're hearing this, you'll know if I started Kenneth Walker or not, and you will know if it was worth it or not. The next guy's Jackson guy.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of tough situation, let's go right into Kyler Murray, who tore his ACL in a meaningless game for Jackson.
This was a gut punch.
I was going to say meaningless game for the Cardinals, but I mean, I guess it was meaningful, but they're done now for sure.
Yeah. This was a gut punch for me. I mean, I've been very lucky all season long. Obviously, you don't go 13-1 without having the injury luck on your side. But for this to happen the week before the playoffs was absolutely brutal. I mean, we'll see.
I hear you, brother.
Yeah, I hear both of you. Except mine came a long time ago.
Yeah, you were a much different time. I have what you had at just the complete opposite time. Because you had it from the get-go, and I have it right at the end. It's really weird.
So Kyler's done for the year?
Testoni's big problem this year was his team couldn't play defense.
No, we'll talk about that later. Christ. So it's going to be Colt McCoy for the rest of the year. As far as Jackson goes, who do you think you're riding with? Still waiting to make an option?
I think he's got a couple.
I added Deshaun and Mike White. And it's going to be – I really like Mike White's playoff schedule. We'll just have to see kind of an audition this week to see if Deshaun can look anything like how he used to. I haven't really decided yet.
Deebo Samuel, expected to miss 3 weeks. We talked about this last episode with the ankle. Yeah, I mean, they're going to bring him back. I think the last thing I read was they are hopeful to get him back for the season finale. Doesn't affect fantasy. I don't think anyone's playing week 18 fantasy stuff. And even if you did, I think it'd be a risky start to play him coming back off that. So especially when they could probably lock up a division by then. Who knows what they're doing in week 18. I don't think they probably can't catch the Eagles at this point. So, I mean, obviously there'll be some jockeying for position, but I would think the goal for the Niners is to have Deebo Samuel for the playoffs, their playoffs, not someone else's fantasy playoffs.
I think a key difference this year, too, for the NFL playoff structure is only the top seed gets the bye. So they're not going to play for a bye. So I guess unless they really care about who they're seeing, they're going to get a home game.
Yeah.
because they're going to win the division. So I don't think it really matters for him to play until the playoffs.
No, especially with his history, I just don't think they even want to risk it. So he's done. It's not needed for fantasy anymore this year. Kenneth Walker, by the time you hear this episode, he would have played, but might as well say he's playing in a very risky situation. And for the sake of this league, Joey Briner, you'll know if he played him or not in a risky short week coming off an injury
Life or
against a good
death.
defense.
The number one defense in the NFL, at least
Life
at
or
least for
death.
fantasy against running backs, the San Francisco 49ers. It's
You
scary.
you haven't made a decision yet, have you?
I have not. I've done a thing this year where if I don't have somebody locked into my lineup, like I just put them on my bench, so I leave the gap there. Just kind of it just mentally like helps me to know what my plan is. Right now, I have a gap in my running back, wide receiver, and flex spot. So,
Who are you pivoting to?
um, if I don't play Kenneth Walker, it's a very sticky situation because Ramondre could play, but it's not looking likely considering he missed Thursday as well. Damian Harris, I'll just jump to that name on here. He was limited unpracticed on Wednesday with his thigh injury. I have not seen the update for Thursday about him yet. So that's something to look at as well because I do have Pierre Strong Jr., a rookie running back for the Patriots, who was going to be my backup option. But with Damian Harris being limited in practice, it's really scaring me. And I'm not certain what to do just yet. And that's all I got. I don't have any other running backs on the roster currently, obviously. If it came to that, if Kenneth Walker is not in the lineup, then I will have to figure something out, to be honest.
At Vegas is a good matchup,
I
too,
don't
against
know.
the run.
I know. It's great. I was looking forward to it with Ramondre.
Yeah.
Damian Pierce ankle listed as doubtful for Sunday. He was already a tough play. Probably, I know he was a big, hot start and a good draft pick for people in the beginning of the year, but as of lately, he's an RB2 flex. I don't know off the top of my head what his matchup this week is, but he's not playing, most likely. And the Texans are not a good team to play in fantasy anyways.
The Chiefs.
It's not a terrible matchup, but you're thinking they're going to be down. They're probably going to have to pass. He doesn't catch passes. Maybe not as good as you think.
Yeah.
Couple of names to rattle off. Carson Wentz, Dallas Goedert, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, all activated off IR. Goddard, Waller, and Renfrow, especially Goddard and Waller, I think are the guys you want to look at. Renfrow really wasn't doing much when he was healthy. Wentz, Wentz for Washington. Joe, you're our Washington expert. He's not playing though, is he?
No, to my understanding, Taylor Heineke will continue to be the starter. I believe what Ron Rivera said a couple of weeks ago when this got mentioned is that Taylor is going to be the starter as long as the wins keep happening, which he basically said it, but he said it in a bad way. I don't remember the exact quote. He basically made it sound like if Taylor loses, he's probably going to get pulled, but as long as he keeps winning, he's going to play. So, I mean, I want Taylor Heineke to be the quarterback. The team just seems to rally behind him so much more just from a whole team aspect, not even just the offense, because the offense doesn't necessarily run better because he doesn't have quite the arm Carson Wentz has, but I think that we just seem to be a little more fluent as a team with Taylor Heineke.
I don't know if it's because of Heineke or not, if just, them hitting their stride in the season, but fantasy purposes, the offense is much better with Heineke than it was with Wentz.
Well, Heineke has no problem dishing it to Terry McLaurin 8+ times a game. So that's been the big fantasy implications there. And they definitely have seemed to run the ball a little bit more as well with Taylor Heineke, which has helped the running back.
I think we all thought Antonio Gibson was going to disappear, but he's actually stayed pretty relevant. So,
and I think that's a big thing because of J.D. McKissick. Not to just make this a Washington Commanders podcast, but I think J.D. McKissick I think with him being out for the rest of the year with his neck injury that he got a while back, that's kind of given Antonio Gibson this opportunity to work where he works best, to be honest, is the passing down guy with still getting some reps at running back, which, I mean, he was a wide receiver at Memphis when we drafted him as a running back in the 3rd round. So it's been a weird ride for Antonio Gibson in the NFL, to be honest.
Let's continue with Joe's team. T. Higgins, hamstring, limited at practice on Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's tough, Joe. I don't really know how to
while you're saying these names, I'll definitely get a double check to see if anything's been updated for Thursday for these guys. Okay. Nothing for T. Higgins, so just limited on Wednesday. But yeah,
Kobe Myers,
another guy.
Limited practice, concussion. I don't think he's out of protocol just yet. But you know who is? Tyler Huntley's out of protocol. So the Ravens will have Tyler Huntley playing Saturday for them. Lamar Jackson was already ruled out against the Browns. I don't think Huntley's a terrible stream. I mean,
No,
they
It's
can
gonna
run the
be like
ball.
a
You can run the ball.
Definitely not.
17-16 game.
What was that, Jax?
It's gonna be like a 17-16 Ravens win. That's how all their games go these days.
Pat Fryermuth, foot not practicing on Wednesday. I kind of think he plays.
I would
I know he
assume
heard it
so
in the
as
game.
well.
I think he played through it in the game. So
Yeah, he did not practice Thursday. Also, he has an update, so you can mark that for Thursday. So that's not a good sign there.
Ooh.
But at the same time, it did say that he played through it this last week. So I guess that's a good sign. But at the same, it's a little scary not practicing Wednesday and Thursday, especially with a new quarterback coming in, because I'm assuming Mitchell is probably going to get the start, I would assume, with Kenny Pickett with the concussion. That's actually not on here, but I would
which is
assume
tough.
that, yeah.
Because I think Mitch, to be honest, moves the ball more.
I think so too.
But
I think he's better for the passing options.
Muth was still relevant with Mitch and a quarterback, though.
No, definitely. And especially in the tight end world, Pat Fryermuth is as good as locked in if he's playing.
Yeah. And Cortland Sutton hamstring not practicing on Wednesday.
Not Thursday
Rats,
either.
Joey, rats.
Not Thursday either. And his projection has actually dropped to 0. So
oh boy.
That usually speaks volumes on the ESPN fantasy app. When it goes to 0, usually they're not playing.
Yikes. All right, let's all the news. Now I have a little segment for you. We're gonna get to our fantasy matchup previews, but I have a little segment that I put together, Joe.
Hell yeah, I'm ready for it.
It's the playoffs by the numbers. Hit the intro.
It's anticipation of the amazing.
Joey Briner is your 2020 champion.
Unvarying in unpredictability and the epitome of excitement.
Fantasy football playoff.
For over a quarter century, it has shown us how to defy the odds.
6 hopeful teams.
One winner. A main event championship awaits. At
5th annual SMCM Fantasy Football Playoffs.
the numbers tell the story.
Welcome, gentlemen. It's playoff time, and the one thing you got to look at all year to get here, and now that we're here, is the numbers. The numbers don't lie, so let's go by the numbers. 1, the number of returning playoff teams from last year. Just Derek Titano is the only man to go who was in the playoffs last year in 2021 and also in the playoffs this year in 2022, and he stands at the exact same spot, the number 2 seed. 2, the previous champions that are in this playoff. It's Joey Briner. It's Andrew Atkins. 1. Let's go back to number 1. The number of playoff appearances by Tyler Soup Campbell. His first playoff appearance this year in the 4 years he's been playing. 4. The number of championships so far, and 3 different seeds. The 1 seed has won it twice, the 3 seed has won it once, and the 5 seed won it last year. 0. The number of playoff wins from the 2 seed, the 4 seed, and the 6 seed. The 4 seed and 6 seed have never won a playoff game, and the number 2 seed has never won the game. They've always lost the first game and never made it to a championship. 6. The number of top 50 scorers on teams, shared by Soup and Derek Titano. Both their rosters consist of 6 players from the top 50 scorers. 12. The amount of weeks since Jackson Edelman's loss. And obviously, he won't be playing this week, but a lot on the line for him. That is by the numbers, gentlemen.
I love nothing more that in that little music intro, you said I was the 2020 fantasy champion instead of Andy is the 2021 fantasy champion. That was gold.
Well, I put that over the audio of the Royal Rumble by the numbers, and I think the normal broadcast was Shawn Michaels is winner of the Royal Rumble. And I had to obviously put in something for hours, and I wasn't going to say Andy's name, so
all about it.
You just did.
Yeah.
I am a little upset that a 4 seed has never won a playoff game in this league. That's a little scary.
Derek Titano, who's currently in the 2 seed, a 2 seed has never won, which is even more crazy, I think. The 2 seed has never won.
That's crazy.
All they need is 1 win to get to the championship. So,
wow.
And Any other comments? Any thoughts on those?
Yeah, the last number, the 12
So
weeks since the
that's
loss,
definitely
that's
crazy.
terrifying. I just want to
Yeah,
say, I
ugly
mean,
to see.
it was great, 13-1. That's going to stand a long time in this league, but it doesn't really matter. Um, it's absolutely terrifying that I haven't lost in 3 months in
Now,
this league.
I will say, by the way, with the top scores in the top 50, I went to the top 50 scores in all of fantasy. Like I said, both Derek and Soup have 6 scores. Joey has 5.
That's what I was going to say. I didn't understand if that was they
Combined.
only had top 50 scores. I was a little confused for a second, but go ahead.
You understand what I'm saying now? The
Yeah,
top,
yeah, no, I
yeah.
follow.
Joey has 5 people in the top 50. And granted, some of them could be 2 quarterbacks, but I'm just, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I also have 5. I'd like to throw my name out there. And Jackson, I
nice.
believe you either had 5 or 4.
That's surprising,
Yeah,
but
very interesting. Um, Joe, do you want to hit the fantasy matchup preview?
Hell yeah. Well, first off, since we're on the playoffs, big thing. I'll go ahead and rattle that down because now it is confirmed. We definitely mentioned it. We assumed that it would be the case, and what we assumed in last episode did end up being the final playoff standing. So I'll definitely get a little picture out there for it since it is confirmed now on our Twitter, which is at Eastside FF, capital ESFF. Um, Jackson Edelman, 12 weeks since a loss. He is the number 1 seed. He's 13-1. Number 2, Derek Titano sitting at 10-4. He also has a bye sitting at the 2 seed. Those guys both will not be playing this week. They'll be resting the starters, letting the backups get involved. Duke Johnson's going to get involved, I believe, for Jackson
Shout
this
out
week.
Duke.
Shout out Duke. 3 seed who will be playing the 6 seed. That is Andrew Atkins at 3, Jake Wills at 6. We did have 3 teams tied at 7-7, 5, 6, 7. Sam Smith snubbed of his playoff run this year. And then 4th is me at 8-6, and I will be playing up against the 5th seed, which is Soup at 7-7. Shout out to Soup for his first playoff appearance. And then
as
rattling,
scary a 5th seed as there can be.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. His team is looking really good. And then I'll just rattle off 7 through 12 real quick, just since it's all final, and then I'll get
There's
into
no need to do that, but okay.
our weekly. Sorry, but Sam Smith snub the Bubble Boy 7-7. 8th is Bryce 6-8. Diego is 9th 6-8. Spano is 10th 5-9. Testoni is 11th 4-10. And our loser, last year's champion, the commissioner Andy Collins, sitting at 3-11. We also have a few more stats since we're going by the numbers. The most points scored in the league, naturally, which should be, is the number 1 seed, Jackson Edelman. The most points scored actually in league history. This is definitely only up against one or maybe, I think only one, right? Other game, because they've added another game.
Yeah,
1 year or
Yeah.
2 years now.
Derek
2
had it
years.
last year, so it's only the second team to ever reach 2,000 points.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Nice.
and that's the added game, obviously.
Yeah, so congrats to Jackson. They're the most points scored. The most points against is my co-host, Nick Testoni. So Jackson had 2,112 fantasy points this year in the regular season. Testoni had 2,039 fantasy points against him. This would be the 3rd most points for in league history. So
Is this the most points scored against someone ever?
it's
Yeah,
very possible.
it
Okay.
is.
Good.
It is, yeah.
Oh,
I mean, I
and
guess
by
it
the way,
makes sense.
it's not close.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Then we have a couple of bad things here. Least points scored this year is not last place. No, it is not. It is actually Spano, who is sitting at 10th place. He finished 5-9 with only 1,635 fantasy points. That's quite the gap from the number 1 seed there. And our least points against. So this guy, Derek here, only had 1,689 fantasy points against him. Definitely can't knock it. It's not like he didn't put up a lot of points on his own, but that is just how it all worked out in the end. Spano had the least points scored. Derek had the least points against.
I believe Spano's 2 years in a row least points in the league.
And I believe, and he lost last year, right? So that makes sense.
Yeah, and also
Usually you would expect that to be the case.
if I could just say real quick, is that true that only one team is returning to the playoffs? That's very surprising.
Yeah,
For
the
only-
playoffs
for
last
only a
year.
I
12-man
was
league.
the bubble boy last year.
The playoffs last year, I did have it in front of me earlier. I was the number 1 seed. Derek was the number 2 seed. And then I believe, I don't remember the rest of them, but Diego, Bryce, and Sam Smith, I think, were the others.
That's interesting. We love parity in our league. It's good
Yeah,
stuff.
no doubt. And
Or
I
no, no, no,
will.
no, no. I'm sorry. I don't think
You're good.
Diego won. It must have been Andy because Andy won.
Yes, yeah.
True.
That
You
obviously
have
that
to
would make sense.
So the only person that so we've had a complete switch out. The only person who hasn't made the playoffs the last 2 years is only one team. I think it's Bryce.
Yep.
No,
Yeah,
it's
because
fair enough.
Andy and Sam Smith were in the championship last year.
Yeah.
Because
So
I
yeah,
remember
maybe it's
thinking Sam Smith first year in the league and he was in the ship.
Yeah.
But I'll go ahead and hop in here. I'm going to start. Usually I start with myself
Oh
because that's the
boy.
first one, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start with the 3 seed facing up against the 6 seed. This is Andrew Atkins versus Jake Wills. Our first playoff matchup is here. An 8-6 Andrew Atkins facing up against a 7-7 Jake Wills.
Oh, I love this.
The projections here between the 3rd and the 6th and the 4th and the 5th, they line up to be the fairest matchups.
The fourth, the fifth,
Although
the minor chord, the major. That's what I thought we were going there.
that's pretty good. If obviously I'm dealing with a few things, so my projection is probably not going to be as good as it usually would be on a weekly basis, but nonetheless, a 125.6 projection for Jake Wills in a 50-50 percentage matchup against a 127.1 projected Andrew Atkins in our first playoff matchup. Jake Wills here, he's going to be out Lamar Jackson like he was last week. Brock Purdy seems to be getting the start for him Thursday night. He doesn't want to wait. He doesn't want to wait for Sunday. Jared Goff against the Jets. He's
Purdy
putting
versus
Brock
Geno.
Purdy in. This is Purdy versus Geno. That's very true. Jake Will is rocking with Brock Purdy, his stud running back, the number 2 running back on the season, Austin Eckler, as well as Brian Robinson, the big hat man himself, in his RB2 slot. Leonard Fournette sitting in the flex. I'm going to go through the whole lineups just because we don't have that many matchups. Gabe Davis, Brandon Ayuk are his 2 wide receivers. Hooked on a Thielen does have Adam Thielen on the bench. We all know what that means.
Oh boy.
Here comes a 30 burger.
He's at least finding the end zone at the very least because I am almost positive he's done that almost every week that he's been on his bench. Pat Freiermuth is currently in his tight end position. We'll see what happens there. He does not have a tight end on the bench, so if anything happens throughout these next few days with any practice reports for Pat Freiermuth, we'll see what happens there. He's got a couple linebackers. Not really going to highlight them too much. And Young Wei is his kicker down low in Atlanta. And on the flip side, Thursday night quarterback matchup, like you mentioned, Jax, Geno Smith for Andrew Atkins here. He's got David Montgomery and Nick Chubb, as well as Cordero Patterson in his flex position. Those are his 3 running backs. Jamar Chase and Chris Olave are his 2 wide receivers at the moment, with Deebo Samuel out, as well as Dallas Goedert. Currently, he's not 100% to play, but he was activated from the IR. And Dallas Goedert is currently in his tight end position. As well as Ryan Suckup is his kicker. Tampa Bay facing Cincinnati this week. And I mean, it's just by the numbers, it's a damn good matchup. 3
You guys,
6 seed.
do you guys want to make a pick?
Yeah, I like that. I'm down.
Ooh.
Go ahead,
weird.
if you want to get us going. Yeah, it's a new thing. I like it though. I think Jackson
I'm
loses
going
week 1 of the playoffs.
to go with. Oh boy, this is tough because there's a couple game changes on each side.
Matchups. There's a lot going on Thursday as well.
I'm looking at Jake Will solely because of Austin Eckler, and I think Brandon Ayuk could be a good play here with no Debo.
I do like Brandon Ayuk.
Man, but you know what? I think I'm going to go with Atkins just because I think, kind of a spoiler, but I think Lenny is going to be a real bust for the rest of the year. So I'm going to go with Atkins, Jamar, and Olave against Atlanta. I'll take that.
Yeah, what I'm looking at here, obviously Jake Wills has the best player in the matchup. I think there's no debating that Eckler can win him the game by himself. But just looking at Atkins' team up and down, if Goddard actually fully plays, I think I got to go Atkins as well.
Wow, this is crazy. It's gonna be like the freaking Monday Night Football crew and the Sunday Night Football crew, and they all pick the same side. And that side loses.
I'm shocked. I know he hasn't been great lately, but I'm shocked by a 14-point projection from Nick Chubb. I gotta figure. I mean, it is the Ravens, but
yeah, it's the Ravens. I will say I think the riskiest thing here for Atkins is Cordero. I think that's a real
no doubt, especially against the Saints too.
I just look at Jake Wills. I mean, he was, I believe, 5-2 or 6-2 at one point. He really
Yeah, he was
limped
definitely.
to get here. And don't get me wrong, he's got good players, but Gabe Davis is a real hit or miss. So is Lenny recently. I just don't like those. I just don't like those two in this
I think I'll
situation.
preface it with this. I think if Gabe Davis has a boom day, Jake Wills wins. I think
Okay.
if he plays the way that he's been playing, 10 to 15 points, even less, I don't think that's going to be tough.
I do believe there is supposed to be some cold weather going on in Buffalo for that
Fair.
Saturday night game. So we'll see what happens with the passing game. Yeah, I mean this is a clean sweep. It's no disrespect to Jake Wills, but I just Andrew Atkins is as fundamental as it gets when it comes to fantasy football. The man wins games. He rarely misses the playoffs, even though obviously did miss last year. But he just wins games flat out. I think Jamar Chase. I'm actually going to argue that I think Jamar Chase has a very strong opportunity to be the number one scorer in this entire matchup, especially with Tyler Boyd out, T. Higgins. Who knows?
Hayden Hurst.
Hayden Hurst out. Jamar
Ah,
Chase is probably good for 12 plus targets in this game.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I'm gonna ride. I like what you guys mentioned earlier, Jamar Chase, and then Olave against the Falcons. I think is a great matchup there. So yeah, it's a clean sweep. I'm actually gonna go on Atkins, who I think is gonna win that matchup there as
Well,
well.
guaranteed Jake Wills wins now. Congrats, Jake.
Yep, that's what I was
now
saying.
I'll set up our next matchup so there's no
Sweet, yeah, sounds good.
bias involved.
I do have some gaps, so if you have any questions,
I've
just let me
noticed.
know.
Let's go to I believe this is the 4-5 matchup between the
this is
home
the ice
team,
side of the bracket.
the Joey Briner led Mike Cox a flopping 20 mgs, and the Soup and Sammys. Well, Sam James probably has no idea he's in the playoffs right now, but that's okay.
That's 100% true. It has to be.
I actually think Sam James might surprise you. I think he knows. I think he knows the roster too,
Oh boy.
but I could be totally wrong.
Now, I will say, like I said, the numbers. Congratulations to Tyler Soup Campbell. This is the first time he's ever made the playoffs in his 4th year. It's been a long run, and he's got a dangerous team. He's currently projections kind of a little off. Joe's obviously, like you mentioned earlier, doesn't have some guys in where he's making a decision. But let's just run through Soup's lineup. It's been dangerous. Jalen Hurts is the quarterback. Running backs of Dalvin Cook and Miles Sanders. The wide receiver room of Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and DeAndre Hopkins. His tight end is David Njoku, who's recently returned and been a big step up. Defenders, Cody Barton, who will be playing tonight, linebacker out of Seattle, and Eric Kendricks, longtime Milk with Icer.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
then Nick Folk, the kicker for the Patriots. On the bench, he's got Joe Flacco. Just like to put that out there. He was pretty upset that Jackson picked up Mike White.
Yeah, get that freaking cry me a river, Soup. You had higher priority and didn't take him, so don't play victim.
Can't really see him shifting out of any of these players, so that's probably a starting lineup right there. Now let's go to Joey Briner's team. He's got Joe Burrow as the quarterback, picked up in the midseason trade. Ezekiel Elliott is his running back 1 in a good matchup against Jacksonville. Currently hasn't decided on the running back 2. It could be Ken Walker. Could be Pierre Strong.
Could be Ramondre.
Could be
Never know.
Ramondre. A lot of things open. Stephon Diggs.
Marlon Mack.
His first pick is Staple there at the wide receiver 1. No wide receiver 2 at this point. Obviously waiting to see the T. Higgins news. Deontay Johnson. He's even got Chris Moore. Elijah Moore. A couple of Moores.
It's a frisky little Chris Moore. It might end up getting a start in the flex.
I actually like Elijah more this week.
Evan Ingram is the tight end coming off a huge week. No flex. That could be one of those other wide receivers. And then the defensive unit, Zaire Franklin, linebacker from the Colts. Josie Jewell coming off a 2-pick performance for the Denver Broncos. And Daniel Carlson, the kicker from the Las Vegas. Little kicker matchup, huh?
A damn good defense and kicker, Joe.
Thank you. I was just gonna say, if I was gonna highlight anything, when I was thinking about doing this, I was gonna highlight my 2 defenders and my kicker. I wasn't even gonna really talk about my roster because I am very happy with how my defenders have performed throughout the year. Finding Josie Jewell is definitely a good pickup. And Daniel Carlson, let's not forget.
That's not.
I traded Greg Joseph for Daniel Carlson about week 5 or 6. Soup was heated. I told him, I was like, what we need to do, just like last year, let's trade our kickers. Who cares, right? Greg Joseph went down the shitter after that. Greg Joseph was actually getting the job done before that. Don't get me wrong. He
forgot how to make an extra point.
Yep.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden after the trade, he forgot how to make an extra point.
One thing I will say before we get to this, the one lineup change that could happen, I don't think Soup would do it. Darren Waller's coming off IR. He's on his IR right now. He could bring him out and put him in the tight end spot. I don't think he will. I think he'll keep Njoku.
Yeah.
If we're going to go into picks, I know they're not the real projections right now. Sub is projected 152. I won't even mention Joe's. He's got 3 players not in, but I don't think it would come to 152. No offense, Joe. He's just got an insane team.
When Ramondre was in, when all the projected starters were in, and let's say Kenneth Walker was out, I believe it was Ramondre, T. Higgins, and Deontay Johnson at the time that I had my roster set before I took guys out. I think it was 140.
Okay. Sorry, Joe, I got to ride with the hot team. He earned his way into the playoffs. He put up 160 back-to-back weeks to get into the playoffs and fight off 2 teams. 3 straight weeks.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So he's been red hot. I'm just going to pick him. I don't know what to tell you.
You guys aren't going to hurt my feelings.
Here's what I'm going to say.
I fully understand what your guys are going to say.
Not so fast. That's what I'm going to say.
You're going to put on the my cocks a flopping headgear?
First of all, I think I think my cocks a flopping needs to up the dosage. Might need to go to 25 or 30 milligrams for this game. Second of all, Soup is my dear boy, my dear friend, Tyler Campbell. Love him. His luck's got to run out. I mean, his team's awesome, but I'm going to roll with Joey in an upset here.
Wow.
Is it more that I want that to happen? Yes.
Yes. The winner of this game will face Jackson.
I can only assume that's what it is.
And Joe, you'll abstain from picking. You're like Kirk Herbstreit when he's calling the game. Exactly. So those are our 2 matchups this week. We don't have to mention all the consolation bracket, those losers. And this was the playoffs. And why don't we just hit this real quick?
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
All right, let's get to our starts and sits of the week before we hit a quick break. I'll do mine first since Joe's is a real interesting one and Jackson's is a surprise. My start of the week, I have Chris. So I tried to pick guys that were kind of more like around our playoff matchups. Not everyone, but my start of the week, Chris Olave and Miles Sanders. I really like Olave this week against Atlanta. He's been good all year, and when he's not, it's more
Miles
of the quarterback
Sanders.
play.
Damn it.
Miles Sanders has been on a hot streak, and I really think Miles Sanders has a nice week. And I'll just quickly get my sits out of the way. I don't like Amari Cooper. I know it's going to be a home game for Amari this week. The Ravens do have a pretty good secondary, and they've done a good job of shutting him down, and I haven't seen him with Deshaun yet. And Lenny looks washed. He's a big old fat boy. And I just think Rachaad White momentum, even though he's fumbled a couple times, is disappointing, which has led to some play going away. Rachaad White just has more juice, and he seems to get the better snaps. So those are my starts and sits of the week.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and hit mine real quick.
Okay, here we go.
So my starts are I have a few starts actually. My starts are Jalen Hurts, Dalvin Cook, Miles Sanders, just to name a few. Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, David Njoku, DeAndre Hopkins, Eric Kendricks, and Cody Barton. Actually, I want to throw Cody Barton in there with a good matchup. And Nick Folk also has a great matchup. The kicker for the New England Patriots, if you've heard those names before, that is the lineup of Soup and Sammy's. Those are my starts of the week. My sit of the week is me, actually. I'm going to be sitting on the toilet and pondering who I should start prior to Thursday Night Football. We'll see what happens there. If Kenneth Walker made the lineup, you guys already know by now, but that's my sit of the week.
That's a hell of a job there.
I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start Alvin Kamara this week. I know he's on my team. However, Dennis Allen, the Saints head coach, said that they need to get him the ball more. And Mark Ingram is done for the year. I think those are both good signs for Alvin Kamara. I think they finally get him the ball and let him get in space. My other start of the week is Eli Manning's career in sports media. He's been great. I love him. Okay. And then last but not least, of course, Duke Johnson, my flag bearer. He's going in the starting lineup this week, and he will lead me into the second round. My sits, Darren Waller. I don't like him this week. I don't know if he's going to get full snaps. I don't like he wasn't playing well when he was healthy. I think the offense is in a different direction now. It's kind of a two-headed monster with Jacobs and Devontae. So I don't really like that league, or don't like him this week. And then last but not least, my other sit is auto drafting, because you're going to draft 3 quarterbacks. You're going to draft 5 defensive players. Don't go to an island on the night of the draft. Be better. Thank you. That's all.
All right. That was our starts and sits of the week. We're going to hit a quick break, and we come back. We'll do the Sunday preview. Let me re-say that. We're going to do the Saturday and Sunday preview. Got a couple games on Saturday this week. Big stuff. It's crunch time for NFL playoffs. It's crunch time for us. We'll be right back.